what do I do once I have a client? How do I make sure that they are taken care of? So I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna share my screen and I will share this document with you guys. It's just like a free resource that is going to allow you guys to kind of start thinking through and almost like practicing onboarding. Because once you've brought on a client, the temptation is to think that you're done selling. You're like, oh, I've got the client, they're just paying me. When really you want to make sure in this software subscription game that we're playing, you want to make sure they stay with you forever, right? If somebody can pay you over and over and over every single month, that is really where scalable freedom happens. And so really you want to treat your onboarding call like a second sales call. So let's say they bought on your site or you actually sold them over, a Zoom call, however you sold them. You want your onboarding to be treated as a second Zoom call. You want to let them know they are 100% in the right place. Because after all of us, when we make a purchase, whether it's on Amazon or at a restaurant down the street, whatever it is, when they deliver, that business is trying to assure you that the money you've spent is being spent in a good place. So I'm going to kind of walk through what we do when we onboard. We onboard hundreds of clients a week. And this is like the tried and true checklist that I'm giving you guys insight into. So you don't have to guess, what do I need to do when somebody signs up? And so you're going to see here, we go literally from everything from like, how do we even just bring energy to the call to like, what are the actual technical things that we do from someone, for someone. So when and I've got folks joining all the time, so I might jump back and repeat myself just in case. So for anybody that has just recently joined, we're going through fulfillment and onboarding for clients. When you bring a client on, what are you doing for them? And everybody's going to differ a little bit, right? Connor teaches you guys some really valuable skills in terms of how to attract and bring on clients, but your fulfillment might not always look the same. So we're going to focus today on like, these are the things that pretty much are consistent across the board. And Connor, I'm going to go ahead and make you co-host too, just in case I get really passionate about this stuff and I might miss some people in the waiting room or something like that. So you'll be able to see that as well. So similar to how I joined the call today and invited you guys in, had you talk in the chat. I want when I'm going to onboard a new client, again, I want to whether they've spent $97 with me or $9,700 with me, I want them to feel like this is the best $97 or $9,700 I've ever spent. And one of the best ways that you can do that, similar to a sales call, is you can bring energy. And so being able to bring energy, so we teach our team, hey, like it's not just like, hey, how you doing today? I'm ready to get your stuff integrated. It's like, hey, Jim, how you doing today? And they're like, good. How about, everybody always asks you back, right? And our tagline is like, hey, honestly, better now that I'm talking to you. And then we explain the purpose and plan for this call. So I modeled this earlier as well, where I said, hey, this call is going to be focused on fulfillment and onboarding for clients. And what's great is you sometimes have people hop on and they want to handle something different. And so Alex was a great example of this. Alex was like, hey, I want to talk about getting new clients, which is a great question. And Connor was like, hey, I'm going to actually keep this. I'm going to let you know, this is actually what we're staying focused on today. And that's because it's, this is why it's important. This is why we're going to do it. So we explain the purpose and the plan so that by the end of the hour-long call, we've said, hey, we've achieved success. So we're letting them know what to expect on that call. And then we say, hey, what's important to you? Like, I want you to be thinking of, as we're going through this, if there's something we don't touch on, that you would say like, hey, this call was a total failure. If we get to the end of it and we hadn't talked about X, Y, or Z, like be thinking about that. So at the end of the call, we can make sure that we talk about that. So we ask what is important to them. And then what I like to do as well is we are all humans. So even in this digital AI world, nothing sells like human to human connection, right? Nothing sells like human to human connection. So even if you're like us and you use AI to make sales, literally to get you for people to like pay you money, we use AI. When we onboard folks, we still like to do it where there is some human to human connection, because it lets people know there are people behind the product and that they are being taken care of. And so we ask for some personal detail related to like that, and so that we know. So right, so if I look up and I scroll through the chat, I'm like, hey, I got Hayden in Minnesota. I've got Propulse. I'm guessing that's not your real name, but maybe you've legally changed it to Propulse. That'd be pretty awesome. It's really bought in on your business there. From London, I've got Zachariah in Atlanta. I have Alexa in Serbia. And so even though I might not know much about Serbia, actually my neighbor is Serbian. Momchilo is his name. I can now connect with somebody who says like, yeah, I'm getting onboarded from Serbia. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. My neighbor's Serbian, and I could maybe create a little bit of a connection there. So there's that person-to-person connection. And so that's where I really like to ask that personable detail and make a connection. So again, this is like the A+ version of how you let somebody know they're in the right place and they are getting value from your software. They are getting value from your service. If you're Google ads, you're running Facebook ads from them. And so that's what we recommend to start. That's like a, let's call that the first 3 to 5 minutes. Right? The first 3 to 5 minutes is connection so that you get buy-in for the call. Because if I'm being honest, onboarding is not the sexiest thing in the world. Like, it is something that needs to be done in order to fulfill for that client. You need to get access to, some of their Google accounts. You need to get access. Like, that's not the most fun thing in the world. But if you can create a personal connection, somebody like this is what really helps somebody. Okay. So let's see, I'm going to pull open another page here, and I think I drew on my screen. I don't know how I did that. And I'm going to bring this in here, and I'm going to go to a random sub account. So we have just like I'm going to show you guys kind of what it looks like high level on our side. And cool. Everybody see high level there? I'm just in a test business here. And so we're going to kind of go back and forth between the onboarding checklist and the demo company. So again, we've taken the time to connect personally, and now it's like, hey, let's make sure their business profile is filled out. So over here in settings, we'll come to their business info and basically fill out this information. Make sure that their general information about their business and their business physical address is filled out. Why is this important? Because high level references these pieces, this information, right? It will reference the address. It'll reference the country. It references the time zone, the platform language, right? You can change if you're serving. We have a lot of folks that serve like the Latin, the Spanish niche, right? They use WhatsApp for their clients, and they serve that niche. And so you can literally change platform language, outbound communication. You want to make sure it's got their main business email, their legal business name. This is important for registering to be able to use phone numbers. And so filling all this out, and people know this about their business. So you're just sitting down, you're saying, hey, do I have your address correct? Do I have your business name correct? All of that kind of stuff. So authorized representative, business information. So that's one of the first things that you are going to go through there with your on your onboarding, is you're going to go through the business profile. Phone. This is a question I get asked a lot. It's like, what should I integrate text messaging and calling for my client, right? So let's say you bring on a local business, let's maybe say a plumber, right? So you bring on a plumber, they join your software, whatever you're doing for them, whether it's just the software, you're running ads, or some other type of service, you're helping them with their Google My Business ranking. And so the question is, do I integrate phone for them? And we say, if at all possible, you want them to use the system to communicate with their leads. And so in that case, you're like, yeah, of course you want to integrate phone for them. So for example, if we head down here, so again, I'm in the settings section. If we head over to phone numbers, I guess we don't have it set up for this specific sub account, but they would be able to purchase a phone number with their area code, and then you would walk them through kind of the registration process so that they can text and call from the system. This is super important, and this is probably one of the things that could potentially take the most time on the call, is just getting them registered to use the phone system. But in terms of when we talk about using, high level, using software, getting clients, all of that kind of stuff, you want them to use it as much as possible. And one of the ways that you get them to use it as much as possible, because if you get them to use it as much as possible, they're going to get value out of it. They're going to earn revenue from it. They're going to make their business better from it. And then they're literally never going to leave, because they associate your software with where they go to do business. And so if we can get them calling and texting inside of the system, that is, they know, they use the app, they use the desktop app. This is where they go to have conversations. This is where they go to sell new clients. And this is where they get leads, all of that. So you want to make sure that you get your the phone side of things set up. And so what we do is we select and set up the phone number. And then we make sure that their A2P registration. We're not going to go into A2P today. I think, Connor, this would be a good subject to do an entire training on, because A2P is a newer requirement from the carriers like Verizon, T-Mobile. It's only US based. So there's people on the call right now that this wouldn't make sense for, because it's only US businesses that are required to go through A2P. So once you have the phone number piece done, we move on to integrations. Integrations also super important. And this is, oops, I'm going to go ahead and go. Because again, if you are able to integrate their most commonly used accounts, they're going to use high level even more. So, for example, Google, right? If you can integrate Google, it integrates from a calendar perspective. It can integrate from an email perspective, can integrate for even like Google business profiles. Like when you search something in Google and business comes up in the top right, that profile literally has the ability to add messaging to it now. So people can message in over Google, that comes into the system. Same thing with Facebook and Instagram. If you connect that, you can run all of your messaging through the app. And so if they're utilizing messaging in the app, they're much more likely to engage and use the system all the time. So we want them. So really, we have them share their screen and go through that and walk them through the steps of integrating with Google. It's really easy. It's usually like 3 clicks. You click, Google opens up a window and says, what profile do you want to connect to? You click the profile, says these are the things it's going to share, and you say yes, connect. Same thing for Facebook. And then if they have TikTok or LinkedIn, those are kind of the other really common ones. And there is Shopify if you're doing any e-commerce clients as well. So those are all really important integrations, because like when people talk about what matters, it matters to make sure you get what we call sticky integrations in, because when something becomes sticky, it means they're not going to leave. It's like you kind of get your claws into their business, and they're going to say, this is integral to running my business. A big part of that is making sure all of their conversations. So instead of them having to go to their Facebook DMs and answer there, they go to Instagram and answer there, and then go to Google and answer there, and then you check their phone for text messages and answer there, and go to their email system to check for emails. You can literally have it all in the same place. So that's where they do business. And if you can convert them to doing business inside of your software, you have a client for life. So that is the next piece of this that's really, really important. So we go back to the template. This is where we're talking about Facebook and Instagram integration. Specifically, we talked about Google integration, Stripe. If you're using Stripe, Stripe is one of the payment gateways. So when we talk payment gateways, all that I mean by payment gateways, so if we go back and we go to invoices and integrations, you can see these are all the places that high level supports for a to like use from a merchant standpoint. So basically purchasing, right? So you can use NMI, authorize.net. Most folks use. That again is international or national, like US specific. Stripe is very common in the US. Stripe is not as common outside of the US. It is still common in the EU, but some of these other solutions might be better for you if you are international. I know specifically Stripe is difficult in India. So we got a couple of folks on the call from India or doing business in India. And if you're doing like business with Indian customers, Stripe is probably not what you want to use. So if your client is going to be taking payments through the system, these are your options for taking payment. And so that's really helpful as well from a integration standpoint. I see some questions coming in the chat. We'll hit those here in a sec. I think the number one reason that, or the number one thing that you want to make sure that you get right is domain connection. So again, if somebody is putting their domain on your system, I find that businesses, especially small business owners, they are sometimes afraid of like messing with domain stuff. And so if you can get their domain onto your system or something along those lines, that's another way that you get really like you get your claws deep into their business because their domain's on your system now, and that means their website or their funnel or their landing pages, you're utilizing their domain. They don't want to change that again. And so this is something that HighLevel has made a lot easier recently. So again, over here in the settings section, if you just head over to domains and add domain, you can now, so let's say I say the demoaccount.com, continue. It's going to try and find your provider. And it's going to have you log in, show that you own the domain. So now it's saying Cloudflare is the provider. And if I click authorize domain, it's going to log in, find the domain, and just make the switch happen. It is super, super, super powerful because DNS records can be technical and complicated. So if you don't consider yourself a technical person, that's totally fine because HighLevel now does this for you. It's super, super beneficial. It really speeds up the process. This used to take us 15 to 20 minutes on an onboarding call. Now it takes us about 3 minutes. So that's super helpful. Email, again, this all goes back to communication. How can I get them to communicate in the system? Because if they communicate in the system, they will sell new clients. If they sell new clients, they will think they will never want to leave. HighLevel's made this really easy with what they call lead connector. We abbreviate it to LC email. And so if we take a look here at our email provider, where do we go here? Email services. You can see, actually this one's set up on Mailgun. So this is an old sub account before they had lead connector mail, but HighLevel makes it really easy. They just literally, every new sub account that you bring on, every new client, it automatically adds the mail configuration so that you are, you're totally good to go. So we just make sure that they're good to go and that they can send and receive email. One other sticky piece that we do is web chat. So HighLevel has its own chat widget. How do you get your client more leads, right? How do you get your client more leads? Put a web chat widget on their website. It is super simple, takes about 5 minutes. You set it up, put it on their website, whether they're using a website through the software or they've got their own website over on WordPress, whatever it is. That gives them the ability to capture leads right there so it'll increase their conversion rate. So if you're like, hey, how do I go sell new clients? You can also sell them with like, hey, what if I could increase the amount of leads you get in a month without spending more money on paid traffic, right? So somebody's asking, how do I get more clients? That is a technique that we see work as well, is I can get you more leads without spending more on ads, without doing necessarily more marketing. What's an easy way to do that? The web chat widget. It literally increases conversions immediately if they do not have a web chat on their website. So that's something you can sell. We see people sell for $97, $197, $297 a month. Somebody was asking about AI, like, hey, could I have this do AI fulfillment and responding as well? Absolutely. HighLevel's got its own conversational AI. We recommend zappychat.com. It is unbelievable what AI can do these days and literally fulfill completely for your clients. Now, as we get past that, some of these things, they might be important, they might not. And this is where you need to know your clients and be able to ask good questions and say, hey, is there anybody else on your team that you think is going to want to use the software, want to access the software? And they're like, well, yeah, maybe like my front desk person that's running the phones and answering calls. You're like, great, let's get them set up. So you head over to my staff and you can add in extra folks there. If then you ask like, hey, are you going to be booking any calendar appointments? And they say, yeah, I'm going to be, I take most of my sales calls and I need them pre-booked. And you're like, great, we'll set you up a calendar. And so head back over to calendar settings here, and you can add a calendar and say like, well, how long are your sales calls? 30 minutes? Perfect. We're going to do 30-minute slots and you're available from 8 to 5. Makes it really, really simple. But we find that there are folks that don't need calendars. And so you don't want to take time on your onboarding call setting up calendars when you really don't need a calendar. And so these are the types of stuff. It's like, do they use LinkedIn? Do they use, TikTok and Twitter for social posting, right? That's another really powerful feature of HighLevel is under, where did I move it to? I don't know why it's not showing up for me, but they have social posting, right? Where you can schedule out social media posting for them. And so if they need to be integrated with other platforms like TikTok, Pinterest, Twitter, you can do that as well. And then we have things because we run like a support team for your users. And so then we show them through like, hey, here's where you get all of your help. Here's where you find all of the articles. Here's where you chat with our team. Here's where you leave an email tickets. Here's where you see what's new with the platform. And so we walk them through that so that they can get the support that they need. And then you're done, right? Now they have a support team to support them, to answer all of their questions. You've onboarded them. They've got what they're doing. You're going to go do whatever else you need to do for their service. And you can really just focus on going to sell more people. And so that's why this is important to do. And I think this is never the most fun topic to talk about, right? Everybody wants to know, how do I get more clients? How do I get more clients? How do I get more clients? But if you don't do a good job onboarding and fulfilling for your clients, you're just going to play this game of the spinning wheel of never being able to keep clients. So if you do this well, and then you hand it off to a support team, you literally can just focus on selling, onboarding, done, selling, onboarding, done. And imagine how quick $197 a month per client, $297, $500 a month. We see people selling it for $3,000 a month. Imagine how quick that adds up if you can onboard and fulfill well. So those are the big items on the onboarding checklist. I'm going to scroll back up through comments here and just see what I'm able to answer. Make sure that you guys are set there. I want to see so we've got about 30 minutes left if we want to use the full time. What I'd ask from you guys is put other questions in chat, or what areas are you particularly stuck in from a technological standpoint, a fulfillment standpoint? What would be helpful for me to go through? Because even if I don't go through it in this call, I can maybe go through it in next week's call. I can prepare for it and make sure that I have all the assets up so I can walk you through, like, how do you actually connect a domain? How do you set up a phone number? How do you actually set up email, right? We're kind of touching on those items saying, hey, these are important, but if you want to see me actually do it, yes, I will drop. So I'll drop a link to the onboarding checklist so that you guys can get that. That's a gift from us via Connor. And so happy to do that. So I'm scrolling back up through the chats. And so Connor, so somebody asked like, hey, how do I get clients? Connor dropped a link to his YouTube channel. There's great training in there all about marketing and getting clients, right? So that is the first step. Onboarding, fulfillment, it's important, but it's not more important than marketing and selling. And so go through Connor's content, attend his Wednesday calls. I know this week, I don't think it's happening. That is where you will want to focus your time. And then that's where this really, really comes in handy. And it's important to do the right thing at the right time. Okay, so then I had somebody asking, hey, I've got maybe a Lithuanian person ordering. And so, or they're purchasing. So different countries have different regulations. I know, for example, like setting up phone number for an Australian client looks different than a US client. It looks different than a client in the Netherlands, looks different than a client in the UK. And so there are different scenarios based on what country you are selling to. In terms of capturing or getting somebody's credentials to get them integrated, because that was like the next question, right? Is, do I have to get their password or not when it comes to screen sharing? And Connor answered that actually in chat. He said, you can have them sign into their account, or you can ask them for the login details and do it for them. Absolutely, you can do it either way. We like to do screen sharing because it teaches them how to do it, right? So if I'm on an onboarding call with somebody and I share my screen and do it for them, they probably don't understand how to do it again in the future if it ever becomes disconnected. If I have them share their screen and I coach them through how to do it, let's say it becomes disconnected because they changed their password, they will remember how to do it because they're the ones that screen shared. So either way, totally works. But that would be my recommendation. Simon asked, automation with AI is possible to have a ready-made chatbot for like a hotel, for example. So what you need to do with GoHighlevel, consider GoHighlevel, if this analogy makes sense, consider it like a big sandbox, right? So in a sandbox, you can build whatever you want. There's a bunch of tools and shovels, and you can form it and put water on it, make a big castle, or you can make a dragon, make an alligator, whatever you want. But if you want something that's ready-made, and so when somebody purchases, it's automatically in their account, you have to build it in the first place. Or you have to hire somebody to potentially build it for you. Or I don't know, there are people that have assets out there that you can, maybe use pre-made assets or anything like that. So it's like, yeah, the answer is yes, you can, but you need to have it ready to go, ahead of time. And then Navneet said, hey, right now the Indian government restricts many payment gateways. I do know that is a ongoing issue. And so yes, totally understand that. Simon asked, possible to configure or copy your high-level template with workflow and then have it be sold as a base. I'm not sure if I totally understand, but let's say you wanted to send this onboarding checklist to your client and just have them go through it themselves. You totally could. I would say, in terms of what the client is going to need to do to have success there, I'd want to you maybe want to make like a video of you doing every step and saying, this is how you do it. And so they could follow along with the videos. But we find the biggest success happens when you either do the onboarding for them or they do the onboarding with you. It is not a necessity. You can totally send them instructions and say, this is what you need to do. But again, if we're talking lifetime value as the number one most important thing in a SaaS world, which is once I get a client, how do I keep them paying me forever? That is the number one thing. That's one of your number one goals, is you make sure the onboarding experience is good. Because if they have a bad onboarding experience and they never use the software, odds that they keep paying you are significantly lower. Okay, next question. Yes, you will get the onboarding checklist. BD, awesome. You're new. You're in good company. So anytime, right? And I always like to give this analogy because I think it's hard in this day and age to be okay with the hard work that it takes to be good at something. And I think of like, I don't have any kids. I've been married for about 10 years, but I don't have any kids. And I do have nieces and nephews. And I remember them learning to walk. And when you have a kid that's learning to walk and they fall down, do you yell at them? Do you say like, oh, you're so stupid, get up and walk? No, you encourage them and you say, hey, it's okay. You're just learning. Get up and walk. You got this, right? And so that is my advice to you. It's like, if you mess something up, don't worry about it. Get back up. You got this. We all learn by those experiences. And so, and then you really get to celebrate all those big wins when that happens. And so, Laddie, I just want to know exactly what to do for the client, or what the client sees on their end when it comes down to using these features. So basically, as I was sharing my screen, that's what you can expect, right? So right here, if I'm still sharing my screen, this is what you can expect the client to see. They can see all of this. Now, I think ours is a little, we've got it a little bit modified using our theme builder, but this is what they'd be able to see. They'd be able to go into contacts and see all of their contacts. We've got a test contact in there. And so, yeah, they'd be able to see all of these things, and each tool has its own different form of use. So in the future, if you're like, hey, I want you to walk through each tool piece by piece, that's what's going to be helpful. Let Connor know. We can totally plan for that. Be happy to walk through that. And so Nicola asked, are we able to use some sort of template and then customize it to our client's liking? I mean, absolutely, right? So if you take that, that's our general onboarding template, right? We onboard people in all sorts of niches, and we might change it based on what country they're in, what country we sell to, or what type of client they are. Does a online business coach need a different sort of onboarding than a plumber? Yeah, probably. Oh man, everybody gets to draw. And so, yes, absolutely, you would want to customize it to your niche. Now, that said, a lot of those things, they still apply, right? So we've got agencies that are like, hey, none of my clients need phone numbers. You're like, cool, make sure you don't set up a phone number for them then in the onboarding. We've got other clients that are like, hey, I don't want folks to have access to, I don't know, automations. And we're like, great, HighLevel lets you hide that. So yes, you can sell any of that, or you can limit a lot of that. I shouldn't say any of it. HighLevel does limit you to an extent, but yeah, you can sell pretty much most of that. Christoph, what to sell with GHL SaaS, like website automations? What would you recommend the most? So I'll continue to point you back to Connor's YouTube channel. His course got really, really great stuff in there and different options for what to sell. I would say my advice from a selling perspective is not as much what are you selling, it's how committed are you to selling it? And so there is not a one best option. We all want it, right? We all want the easy button of the one best option. That's what I think about HighLevel. It's a lot of easy buttons because there's so much value in the software for such a crazy low price for you, right? As the agency owner or as the SaaS owner, right? It's a one-time a month price for unlimited sub accounts. I'll tell you, we literally support agencies that have 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 sub accounts. It's crazy what you can do with HighLevel. And so what are each of those agencies have in common? They've all committed to say, this is what I sell and this is how I provide value. So are they all different? Yes. Are they all good? Yes. So when you're like, hey, website automations, all good options. It's just being committed to saying, hey, this is how I'm going to provide value to clients. How long? So Sean asked, how long should an onboarding call last? And do you set everything up live in front of the clients? Ooh, that's good. So, and Laddie said 3 to 5 minutes. You know what? If you're having success in 3 to 5 minutes, that is awesome. Our team does hour-long onboarding calls. Does that mean you have to do an hour? No, but we prioritize the relationship. Does that mean it's the absolute best way to do it? Not necessarily. You could probably do it. You might be able to do it quicker. But again, we want somebody that whenever they think of our software, they're like, oh, when I have to get a new credit card, that's the first thing I'm going to go make sure that my subscription renews. And so we do an hour-long onboarding call with them, and we walk through that, and we make sure that they feel like they are in the right place and that they are going to have success. So that is how we do it. How do I get high-paying clients to my software company? At least minimum sum of $50K per project per month. One, be a really, really good developer, right? So I'm not going to dig into that. That's a really specific question on the sales side and a very different high-end offer. All to say, do we see people doing that? Yes. Is there a lot of fulfillment involved? Yes. But at $50K, that makes sense. Awesome. Simon says, thanks. He says, thanks. I really needed to hear this. Oh man, I love it, guys. This is one of my favorite things to do. I want to see you guys have success, and it is, entrepreneurship can be, it's a really fun, it's the most fun journey I've ever had in my life. But that doesn't mean there's not ups and downs, and we want to continue to provide you guys with times like this so that we can all connect and encourage each other and cheer each other on. Sydney says, how do I bill my clients? So Sydney, what I recommend is that you have, and I don't know, maybe Sydney, you can let me know where you're located, because it might depend on where you're located. But when it comes to how do I bill my clients, the biggest thing is, like, you got to have something like Stripe or a payment processor in order to be able to send them an invoice, right? QuickBooks might do it as well. We, in the US, we primarily use Stripe. Stripe allows, it directly integrates with HighLevel. And so we can, we can basically recurringly charge somebody. So they purchase on the page, we bill them, or we send them an invoice. And from that invoice, they are able to pay, and we're able to continue, we're able to continue to charge their card on file. So if you haven't set up Stripe yet with your business, that would be my first recommendation. Now, depending on how you answer the question of like, where are you in the world and who are you selling to, I might have different answers there. And so that's also something we could potentially walk through, is like, hey, how do I set up a Stripe account? So that's something we could request on a future Wednesday call, or I guess today is Tuesday. I got my days mixed up. On a future Tuesday call. Wednesday call is your sales call. Navneet was our artist, so no, I didn't know you could draw either, but that's all good. I will, if you want to draw me a portraits, go for it. I'm a terrible artist personally. Ooh, okay. Awesome. Lucas, great question. So let me see here. So that's going back to that. So I'll read the question out loud for anybody that missed it. I'm just getting the SaaS Configurator up. So on HighLevel, bring this over here. All right, can everybody see the, I'm on the agency backend of HighLevel now. And so I'm in the SaaS Configurator. This only shows up if you're on HighLevel's $497 plan. Like Connor said, if you are not on the $497 plan, maybe hang out for Black Friday deals. I know there's some awesome Black Friday deals coming that might allow you to have the best opportunity to get on the $497 plan there. So that's HighLevel's $497 plan. And so the question is, love to see how to set up for our clients the 4 core features I want to offer them: reviews, Google My Business, missed call text back, and mobile app. And so what you're going to see here in the SaaS Configurator is multiple plans. And we're in a demo account here, so literally the demoaccount.com. We have multiple HighLevel accounts to be able to just run tests and have demonstration purposes and all that kind of stuff. So for example, if we look at what are the features included on my core plan. So if I was going to sell the core plan at $97, here are the things that HighLevel requires you to have. So 2-way email, text, and conversation. Now, do you have to set up text? Do you have to set up email? Like, do you have to make those functional? No. Reputation management, so that's the reviews that Lucas was asking about. Missed call text back, it's there. GMB messaging, Facebook Messenger, text to pay, that's like the ability once you have Stripe integrated to be able to send invoices through text messaging or Facebook messaging, web chat, and GMB call tracking. Now, everything else, totally selectable. You can turn it off, right? So if you're like, hey, when they buy the $97 plan, I don't want them to have any of this stuff. I just want these core features. These are the only ones with the lock symbol that HighLevel basically forces you to have. So when you set up your SaaS configurator, HighLevel walks you through it. You attach your payment gateway, again, usually Stripe, and then when you save this, it automatically creates the products over in Stripe. So Stripe says, hey, yep, here are your products. And then when somebody purchases that product, it's really cool. HighLevel's integrated in such a way that when somebody purchases that $97 product, whether it's on a website page, a funnel page, or you just send them an invoice link, whatever it is, it will automatically create them an account in HighLevel with only these features. And so you can set up multiple plans and multiple different tiers and different features and different, you have all these options that you can see here: plan details, pricing, trial and credits, rebilling. It's really, really simple. And so when somebody purchases, it's automatically going to set them up an account. It's going to send them credentials, and they're only going to have access to the things that you want them to have access to. So they make it really, really easy in that way. Sean asked, in the UK, I believe, we can only use PayPal, Xero, and Stripe. If the client doesn't want to use our software for payments, can they create invoices for clients and get their payment independently? Absolutely, right? So the nice thing about HighLevel is it is like an all-in-one service, but at the same time, it is not like if they don't want to use a certain feature, they don't have to. And so they want to continue like, hey, my invoicing, or maybe let's say they're a storefront, right? They sell flowers. They use HighLevel for marketing stuff, but in store, they've got they're using a different point of sale system. They don't have to use HighLevel. And the nice thing about HighLevel is, and this is getting a little bit down the technical side of things, so we won't necessarily go there today, but it can communicate with a lot of other softwares. It's got multiple native integrations, like we saw. It also has the ability to use middlewares like a Zapier or Make so again, we won't go down those, but those basically it's like a middle software that allows HighLevel to talk to the point of sale system or to talk to another software. So Nadi, can you do an invoice from a Revolut transfer confirmation? I'm not sure that I understand your question. So maybe you could try rephrasing that. I do not know what a Revolut transfer confirmation is. So if you can give me more details there, I'd be happy to try and answer it. Can you set it on auto pay with clients? Absolutely, Amy. So yes, 100%. It is like a Netflix subscription, right? So they sign up and whatever you've set the billing term to be, which is usually monthly. And so Stripe is, so already answered your question, Amy, but yes, to confirm, absolutely. And that's what's so nice, right? Like I couldn't tell you the last time I've looked at my Netflix subscription, right? It just comes out of my bank account every month without fail. And that's the nice thing is you can do auto pay. Okay. So I think I have caught up on questions, but we still have 10 minutes remaining. So does anybody have, like, if you're feeling like, ooh, I don't know if I should ask this question, it might sound dumb, kind of feeling that tug of like, just go ahead and ask it. Like, we're all here to support each other. And so if you have a question or if you're confused about something, it doesn't even at this point, because we've gotten through a lot of the overall fulfillment, onboarding type stuff. If there is anything that's not related to fulfillment and onboarding, again, might not be able to answer it, but I can probably point you in the right direction. Revolut is a banking system where people can send and receive money. And I think I can do payments from Revolut, and it gives transaction confirmation to show to the customer. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to look up Revolut banking Zapier. Yeah. So I don't think HighLevel. Yeah. So Connor's asking, can you use PayPal? PayPal natively integrates. Oh, that was for Lucas. So sorry, Needy. And please anybody correct me if I'm pronouncing names wrong. I lived in South America for 3 years and nobody could pronounce my name. And so I'm very used to pronouncing names wrong, both to myself and to other people. So just correct me. So HighLevel does not natively work with Revolut, but Revolut works with Zapier. Zapier allows you to connect HighLevel and Revolut. So is there a workaround? Yes. Is it going to natively integrate right now? No, but does that mean HighLevel is not going to introduce it later on down the road? They're pretty impressive when it comes to how much they are getting done. So Lucas says, can't use Stripe, Authorize.net, or NTM. How can I offer those features like you showed a few minutes ago? Yeah, so Connor asked, can you use PayPal? So let us know there. Amy's, can we go back and look at this in Zoom? Yes, 100%. This is recorded. Connor will be able to give you where you can find that. And so Connor, I don't know if you want to drop that in there where they can find it, or you'll let them know later. But yes, you'll be able to rewatch this because this is a lot of information. And what I've found is I get more out of revisiting something than I do out of necessarily reading something new. So instead of reading 10 new books a year, I'd almost rather reread the same 3 books, like business books, over twice, 3 times, like that book that Connor's got somewhere in his background. I'm like, I think I've read that book 3 or 4 times because it's so jam-packed with value that like I get new information from it, or I'm reminded of like a key marketing principle every time I read it. Nicola, any advice on the billing plans for the beginning? What worked the best? Oh man, it's a That is a challenging question because I've literally seen people sell high level for $50,000. I've seen them sell it for $97. They were wildly different offerings and you almost had nothing in common. So I would say this is what, and so Connor, feel free if you're like, hey, I've got a great answer for this, or this is what I have found success with, because Connor and I haven't always, like, it doesn't mean we've necessarily found success the exact same way. And so for me, it is, how do I either support people in a business I already know, like, right? Like, oh, I used to work in this type of business, and therefore I think I could, serve that type of business well. And what I found is, here, let me give you an example. About 10 years ago, I was an accountant. So I was a CPA is what it's called here in the US, certified public accountant. And I bought my first house. And I bought too much of a house. Like, I couldn't afford it. And so I had to rent out my guest bedroom on Airbnb and to make extra money to be able to pay my house payment. And so what I did was I rented it out for really, really, really cheap for like the first 10 people. And I got incredible reviews. People were like, oh my gosh, the value, this is insane. And you know what Airbnb doesn't tell people in the reviews? They don't tell people who are looking at booking how much that person paid to stay there that night. So I got tons and tons and tons and tons of 5-star reviews. And then I jumped the price about 5x, right? So I knew I wasn't really making money on the first couple, but then I jumped the price by 5x and I had the best reviews out of anybody in my area. And so people kept booking at the 5x price. So that would be my recommendation. If you're concerned from a billing standpoint, it's okay. It is much easier to start too low and then increase price. I remember in our agency, we had a deck builder. We made them $100,000 in a month. And I had to go back to them and be like, hey, we made you $100,000. We're going to need to raise the price, right? So you can do that with existing clients, or basically you can change your website at any time. I will tell you, it is so much easier to increase your price than to have started off too high and decrease your price. Both can be done. Both can be done. It is easier to go from lower to higher because you're doing a good job. So that'd be my recommendation on billing. I can't use PayPal. Sure, Sean, if you want to. Yes, awesome, Nicole. I'm glad that helped. I feel like I missed somebody. So Lucas, in terms of payment provider, you would still be able to control features, but you might not be able to use every single piece of the automation that HighLevel provides if you're not able to use one of the native providers. So I'll look into that on the next call. If I've got a different answer, I'll let you know. That doesn't mean that you won't be able to limit their access. You just might have to do it a little bit more manually. And so that is part of it. But I also know that HighLevel is adding like new integrators and new payment providers and all that stuff. The other one I would potentially look into is called Numeric, Noomerik. And that could also be an option for you there. Potentially, I don't know, based on where you're located, if they support there. Cool. What are we doing? How are we doing on time, Connor? We got like a couple minutes left. Sorry, say that again.
Yeah, so we got 5 left.
Yep, cool. Anything else that folks want to go through? I know, Sean, you'd said, hey, there's no other questions. Can I share a quick story with a client that I had last week and get your take, what I do in this situation? I'm totally good with that. Yeah.
Hey, Graham and Connor. Also everyone else on the call. Hope you guys can hear me. So yeah, essentially, I was my first essentially client, not onboarding, but just someone that was interested in using the service. Yep. I took the approach of essentially reducing the prices and hopefully increasing it in the future. Now, the situation was he was very impressed with the services and everything. His main essentially concerns were that just he wanted some reassurance in terms of sort of help and support, help on advertising, but he did also mention that these were his worst months throughout the years. So throughout the year, so he was a bit reluctant to go for the service as of now. I've sort of basically agreed to sort of check in with him this week, but said most likely I'd probably be interested in a couple of months. But I mean, just in terms of like the way that I went through, I literally went through sort of all the services that we offer, automation, everything, etc. But I mean, when you get sort of a response like that, how do you guys essentially deal with that objection?
Yeah, so I think I definitely want to touch on this one real quick, and then Graham, if you want to add anything, feel free.
Sure.
But yeah, so there's a couple different ways you can go about that. I mean, it seems like, so when you went over everything, did you kind of just run through the whole software, just kind of run through
Yeah,
all the features?
yeah. So to be honest with you, it was my first call. So firstly, I was really nervous, and I was pretty much freestyling it, to be honest with you.
Right.
But yeah, I think I could
Great.
have gone into things a bit more detail, and I might have sort of overwhelmed him with the amount of things that he can actually do as well. So I don't know if that's a common problem with everyone else as well, or
Yeah, that's definitely a very common issue. And actually, I think either my last video or the one that I'm actually, yes, it was my last video. I went over this actually. That's very common in the beginning. And that's something called feature dumping, when you kind of jump on the call and you're kind of just run through everything. Definitely can overwhelm the prospect a little bit. What I like to do is I like to take the beginning of the call. And I think Graham touched on this too on the onboarding, which is, it's always great to do this. You want to get information from the prospect kind of before you start pitching the software. Because when you start talking to them, ask them about their business, learn a little bit about their business, you're going to get this information. You're going to figure out kind of what they need, what their business might be currently lacking. So you're going to be able to touch on a couple points specifically that, like, okay, these couple features are going to be a really, really good fit. So on the sales, the demo portion of the call, I want to make sure to touch on these points. So for example, maybe the business doesn't have a lot of Google reviews, maybe they only have, a couple reviews, or they maybe just have a low rating in general. One thing that might be good to touch on is the reputation tab, where you can tell them about how you're going to get automatic Google review requests and stuff like that. But as for the kind of objection towards the end where he did not want to follow through, I think in this situation, a really good segue would be kind of offering a free trial. Say, hey, I'd love to get you on this free trial, 14, 30 days, whatever it may be, and let that business owner kind of test out the software. And obviously you want to assist them with that process, getting them onboarded during that free trial. And I think that's a really good segue to kind of get them to see the value inside the software. They'll get everything moved over on that free trial. And it honestly, in certain cases, might be, too much of a headache for them to switch back. So they kind of just go with it, depending on the price. But I think a free trial is a really good way to do that. And Graham, if you want to add anything on top.
No, I think you're spot on. It is good to be able to show folks the features, but if the features aren't relevant for them, it can potentially overwhelm. Or I think even more importantly, if you haven't taken the time to necessarily discover what issues they have and make sure that they are problem aware, it's so important that somebody understands that they have a problem before you try and solve it. And so typically when it comes to sales, that's what I would focus on next time, or think through, is like really understand their problem and how you can potentially address their problem through that. Because somebody, even if they're having a down month, I was just on another podcast interview talking about this like literally an hour ago, which was when things are in a down cycle, actually the first thing a business should be spending on is good marketing, because that's how they're going to ensure that they get out of the bad cycle, by getting in qualified leads and turning those leads into customers. So I think it's understanding where they're at and showing how your system, or really showing them how your system gets them to the destination that they want to be at, which is like, hey, we're having good months again. So I think, yeah, similar to Connor.
Awesome. Yeah.
Cool.
And
Thanks, guys.
For sure.
Yeah, no problem. And I just want to respect everyone's time here. I think we are pretty much about over. I just want to thank Graham for coming on here. Graham, you absolutely killed it. Amazing information. And I can't wait to have you back next week. If you guys want to see Graham back next week, definitely let me know. Let me know what you want to talk about. And we can kind of get it planned out and get it set up for you guys next week. But yeah, thanks again, Graham.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and keep rocking it. See ya.
Yep.